Hello, welcome. Thanks for being here with me, Lotus, and Art of Sacred Embodiment. So I'm coming to you on a very snowy day here. I think it's the second snowy day that we've had here, and it's quite lovely. So, yeah, I have something I want to talk about today. Imagine that. First, I want to thank you all for participating with the channel. Thank you, those of you who are planning on joining tomorrow evening, 5:30 p.m. Central Time, my first maiden voyage live stream, as we're going to dive a little bit deeper into the spirals of the Sacred Feminine live stream call. So I look forward to connecting with you all there and hearing questions, hearing experiences, and how moving forward you can be benefited and really find the value in connecting more deeply to your own inner feminine. So that will be tomorrow. And so as we move forward, if you haven't subscribed yet, and if you're interested in these topics, then I would love to have you subscribe, hit the like buttons. I've been trying to get back into this rhythm again, and the algorithms would be helped tremendously. If you resonate, I would love to be able to let you know more often when I am doing videos and offering new, fresh content. So that's easiest if you have subscribed. So thank you, and thank you everybody who does like and make comments. I love that. I appreciate it, and I really appreciate the connection and you being here and resonating. So let's move forward now with how the sacred feminine and the sacred masculine are being viewed as we continue to move forward through 2025, through the age of Aquarius, through this next like 26,000 year cycle. No small thing that we are in the midst of, as most of you already know. So I have made a number of videos that you can find, going back in the library. And in those videos, I give more of a foundation and overview of how I differentiate the developmental stages between karmic relationships, and we're talking primarily romantic relationships, karmic relationships, conscious relationships, sacred partnerships, and divine union. So if you're unclear about some of those delineations, then that will give you a lot more scope of what it is and my perspectives of where I'm coming from. So in there, I also mentioned briefly in different places that we have had a lot of, a lot of old templates of relationship, of the ways in which we have viewed love, need, need in partnerships, and reciprocity versus, trying to get needs met from another, and what it means to start to come in from a place of self-love for individuals, and then we come together in a higher expression of love. So I've talked about some of that, and I've also talked about these higher templates of divine union. I don't go into a lot of details on that, and I'm still not going to go into a lot of details on that because the majority of us are not there. And it's just a construct at that point. Without an embodied experience, it becomes challenging to actually expand on it and fully engage with it. But we want to know that there is a higher level of relationship, of higher love, that we are gradually in this momentum in maturing into, evolving into, becoming containers, right? Sacred vessels and containers individually, so that we can come together and create a more powerful container for the divine frequencies. So we're going to hang out more so in the conscious love / higher love and sacred love. So one of the things, so I'm going to post um, in the description box. I have on Spotify a my playlist that I've created, and it's called Signature for Union. And this is just my personal connection, my personal vibe of of how I experience my own inner union, okay? And that higher love expression, and recognize it to be a signature, a frequency of what partnership, what my unioning will resemble energetically. So, a lot of the music from this is, like 70s. And one of the key things that I want to just say about that time frame, and if you choose to listen to any of the music, you'll notice it's still got the very 3D in a lot of, not all of it, but there's still a very strong 3D consciousness, right? Whereas heartbreak, you know, pining for the one that got away, um, you know, yeah, heartbreak, but it's not quite like it was like in the 80s, and definitely not into the 90s. There's an innocence about it. There's a vulnerability around it, and it's mostly singer-songwriter artists. And during the 60s and 70s, there was this shift in the masculine. The masculine was starting to come into their inner feminine expression. They were becoming more connected to their own inner emotions. There was this deeper vulnerability. There was this level where, this is mainly in the music. I wasn't quite of age yet to see it, except for I do remember seeing some of that in my parents, in my dad, and how my mother and father were together, which was truly beautiful. And the mutuality and reciprocity and the passion that they shared together through most of my life was sort of this model of how I wanted to be when I grew up, right? They were playful. They used to dance together. They would, very affectionate and kiss and because it was the 70s and we were kind of hippies, so there was like this open expression that was really beautiful that informed me of what relationship could be, and I believed that it should be. So it's a long prologue. So I resonated a lot with this music. And that time frame was actually planting seeds for where we are now, within the masculine and feminine. And those seeds were planted, and yet the vine got pretty distorted along the way. And it is now that there's a deeper purification that is happening, that is taking rise. And part of this has to do with the feminine has been on the rise for quite some time. The feminine leads the way. And I want to clarify, this has nothing to do with the feminine leads the way in order to be better or in a hierarchical stance. That's not it at all. The feminine principle in a universality expresses the birthing of things that are new. The feminine births new paradigms, new structures, new templates, right? She births what the new visions are. And so the feminine had to make her way through her deep healing processes first in order to open hearts, in order to bring a return to an embodied experience. Because we've been living in the masculine domain for thousands of years. The masculine domain is very externalized. So the feminine had to start returning back home, first and foremost, through self-love, through deep reflection, through healing our abandonment wounds, healing our rejection wounds, healing, sort of like those holes in the core of our being of incessant need, and the need for external validation and love in order to remember that we are lovable. So we've had to be working through all of these shadow expressions of ourself first and foremost. This is the level of the sacred feminine, right? It's the level of the internal deep healing and the recognition and acceptance of all aspects of us. And I'm going to put them in an elemental structure, meaning our watery emotional nature, our grounded, solid nature, our fiery, spontaneous, kind of fairy-like nature, playful nature, and our wrathful, fiery, or passionate nature, right? So the feminine had to return to a place of recognizing that all expressions of us are valid and valued, and they are intrinsically right and true. Because, right, certain emotional states from the masculine prism for, hundreds and hundreds of years had to do with women's hysteria, right? Or women's emotionality, being too emotional, too intense, feeling too out of control and chaotic. Okay, all of these elemental expressions needed to be healed and returned to, and then refined in balanced, healthy ways of expression. Excuse me. So we had to lead the way for the rise of the sacred masculine. The sacred masculine is still it's still kind of on the back burner because now we're on to the divine feminine, right? We've kind of transcended, well, let's put it this way. Conceptually, we are transcending the sacred feminine into the divine feminine. However, to actualize our divinity, we still have quite a ways to go, which is again why I don't talk about that very much, but it is part and parcel in this work that we're doing over this next year, because we're going to get to embody, right? See within ourselves, begin to embody our sacredness to such a degree that we become able to hold our divinity, and we will begin to understand on an experiential level, what does that mean? What is that frequency talking about? What is that frequency downloading to us? So I'm going to shelf that again. So the sacred masculine is still finding his way. And yet, the feminine is here to help anchor in and support and birth, right, that template. Because now the masculine is coming online. And, we've seen this over, maybe the last, maybe I'll just say 10 years, right? Going back 10 years, maybe a little bit more than that in different communities. We started seeing the rise of, men groups and the wild men, right? The wild men going out into the woods together, right? Bonding and supporting a return to a primal nature, a resonant, holy primal nature. Because just as the feminine had gotten way too young, since, let's just say, the 80s, okay, and the masculine became more feminine, sometimes too feminine, particularly within spiritual communities, particularly within, some of the conscious community, conscious awareness groups. So I'm not saying that, I've had some beautiful partners who are very feminine men, and they held a bit of a balance, but they were also much more feminine. And part of that was because I was out of balance in my masculine. So we came together, right, to balance one another so that their feminine could kind of soften me, and my when I could soften, then their masculine was able to step up, then that softened me more. And then, right, so there's this elemental alchemy that happens when we're energetically coming into balance with frequencies and signatures. So now we're at this new jump off space, right? I keep talking about this vista that is spread out before us. And what's past, we're just letting it fall away. And our focus is now becoming set on what is right now. What is the wisdom that I've gleaned over my journey thus far? Right? What is the healing? What is the wholeness that I can start to anchor in and grok and embody? What is that level of maturation based on everything that I've learned? That now I am poised for this vista. And we don't exactly know what these new templates are that are falling, falling, streaming down. But we can start to feel them if we're paying attention. If we're at these stages of developmental readiness, we can begin to sense and to know intrinsically inside of us, which is why it's important that we embody and know how to come in. This is the feminine expression. Okay? And as these new templates land, a balanced feminine energy that is self-loving, self-valued, self-validating, self-respecting, self-honoring, understanding that we are a vehicle and vessel of the divine. That's what we are creating these vehicles and vessels for. And then these signals, right, begin to intermingle with the higher expressions of the masculine. So that then the masculine begins to recognize their intrinsic value and worth. Their intrinsic knowing that maybe they're tired of operating on a historical, out of balance masculine way, right? Which tends to be still disconnected from emotion. And when I say disconnected, I don't mean introverted men who may not talk easily about their emotions, but feel very deeply, right? But feel very deeply, experience life very deeply, so that their feminine is actually present. I'm talking about the disconnection of not allowing oneself as a masculine to really allow their heart armor to open, or allow themselves to feel their shame or their grief or their anger, right? Or where they have felt minimized or perhaps used. A number of the masculine wounding, right? Where they've had to sort of buck up as the consciousness of the soul survivor, the soul provider. Even though we may not see that in our reality anymore, we're talking about thought forms and consciousnesses that is still deeply wired and rooted within both the masculine and feminine. But I want to just focus on the masculine for a minute. Within the masculine, right, where true respect and pride comes from, what it means to be a man. And for both parties, these principles have gotten deeply, deeply distorted and wounded. And I'm not going to go off. I'm going to refrain from going off on any tandem that will focus on, but I am going to bring a light to it, that focuses on what pop culture, music, and entertainment reflects back to us as what a masculine and feminine is. And these usually contain a fallen base nature of more of the lower centers, addictions, wounding, and deep, deep, deep disrespect, and I will say self-loathing and other loathing, no matter how it's dressed up. Okay? So our younger generation is being inundated with a very distorted view of what these principles mean in their highest expression. So that's all I'm going to say here. So part of this next leveling, right? Part of this job that those of us who carry these templates of divine union. Okay, so the templates of divine union. Not everybody is going to carry those templates, which is fine. Not everybody is supposed to hold those blueprints, right? We all have our specific blueprints that we hold and carry. Different archetypal expressions, universal truth expressions. Carl Jung has a whole list, right, of what some of these blueprints and templates are. So, but I'm talking about the blueprints for divine union are informing those of us who are here to support the pathway to higher love, to a deep healing and reconfiguration and remembrance of what we have forgotten. And this developmental stages and phases are for absolutely everybody. Okay? And why is that? Because we are recoding what our planet looks like in the expressions of these two polarities, so that they move into greater harmony and balance, mutual reciprocity, deep love, reverence, respect, honor, cherishing, protection, nurturing, loving, holding deeply, receptivity, vulnerability, trust in oneself and in the other. So where this begins for both has everything to do with self-love. And there are many versions of, let's say, the twin flame journey. And even the twin flame journey, for those of you who have been connected to variations of it over the past, even those templates are now changing, right? Because we're hitting a new plateau. And divine counterparts, right? Those who have been deemed, deemed, or we could even say ordained, right, to carry these codes. Even that now is shifting for some, because enough healing has been done for both polarities that we can now begin to have high-level partnerships and relationships where both people, even though there's still learning phases happening, there's this deeper level of our own intrinsic connection to life, the divine, source, God, the mother, father, right? In whatever way, where we are anchored enough in ourselves to start to be able to come together in union. And part of this work has happened through both of these counterparts, through doing deep inner work. Part of this inner work is an elemental recalibration, whether that's what we have called it or not, whether that's what we identify to it or not. So the feminines have been really on the leading edge of this living teaching, right, that is streaming through most of us. And it is a multi-dimensional teaching. It's a multi-dimensional activation. And it naturally brings in tandem both of the divine counterparts, whether they're together or not, whether they even know each other or not, whether they're going to be together or not. Instead, it is done through the higher levels of divine wisdom and divine love. So when we move forward, and I'm not going to, again, I'm doing these little blips of videos, right, this week before our gathering tomorrow, because they're key things that I wanted to go deeper in even before we come together in the live stream, because there's going to be a lot of topics that are going to be introduced, and I can't go into all of them there. And most of them, again, they're very conceptual until we start getting the direct experience, which is what this journey for this year is. So there's a lot of celebratory energy that I think both in the camp of the divine and sacred counterparts. You know, I look at the divine counterparts as still being like our highest selves, right? Like my highest self, who has been working with me and guiding me, right, is my divinity, but we haven't quite integrated into a full landing embodiment yet. And the same as the divine masculine is working with, you know, the appropriate divine masculine or sacred masculine counterparts, right? It's happening very etherically and on a soul level. We are saying yes to the call of our role and mission to bring in higher love on this planet, to heal the distortions of the mass fallen expressions of romance and relationship, disconnection, right, wounding, all of that. So, excuse me. So I think I'm going to wind that down. Lots of celebration, lots of anticipation for sure, lots of deep enthusiasm and reverence for whatever is coming in. And this is one reason, from this prism, from this lens, this is one reason why we can look at the multitude of relationships that, and long-term marriages, or, you know, relationships as a whole that have gone through many divorces or separations over these last couple years, is because the old template is falling and this new template is coming in. the new templates are not karmic patterns anymore. They are a different frequency and holding a different vibration of love. So it's very magical, it's very exciting, and I'm super, super happy to finally, I've been moving forward with this in spits and starts, so to speak, for probably 4 years. And it just was not time. It was not time, and it was not time collectively or, in my own world. Ta-da! Now it is. So super, super happy for this. All right. So I think that's where I'm going to leave it. And we're going to touch on this more tomorrow evening. I hope to see you there. Again, I'm going to put my link in for my Spotify playlist in case you want some nice, yummy love songs and even just higher love, vulnerability and expressionality and openness and tenderness, and even some mystical, magical, moody blues love songs that are actually referring very much to this journey of the sacred and divine partnerships and unions. So it's very magical times that we're in. I am going to say goodbye. Blessings, much love. Don't forget, if you resonate, please subscribe and like. I greatly appreciate it. Be well.